College was a whirlwind. It was a place where dreams and reality collided, where every day felt like a new adventure waiting to unfold. The campus was always alive with energy, a melting pot of cultures, ideas, and aspirations. It was exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. The sheer volume of new experiences was overwhelming, yet it was also what made it so thrilling. Every corner of the campus held a new story, a new possibility. I was a small-town boy thrown into this ocean of unknown faces. The anonymity was both a curse and a blessing. I could reinvent myself, but I also felt lost in the crowd. Then I met them, Omar, Lila, Yasmin, and Marwan. Each one of them brought something unique to the table, something I desperately needed. They were different, rich, sophisticated, and oozing an air of confidence I envied. They seemed to have it all figured out while I was still trying to find my footing. Omar, with his charming smile, took me under his wing. He had this magnetic personality that drew people in, and he made me feel like I belonged. Layla, a whirlwind of energy, was always the life of the party. Her laughter was infectious, and she had this incredible ability to make everyone around her feel alive. Yasmin, quiet and observant, possessed a sharp wit. She didn't say much, but when she did, it was always something profound or hilariously insightful. And Marwan, the enigmatic one, always seemed to be watching from a distance. He had this mysterious aura about him that was both intriguing and unsettling. We were inseparable. Days bled into weeks, weeks into months. Time seemed to fly by as we navigated the ups and downs of college life together. Our laughter echoed through college hallways. We shared countless memories, from late-night study sessions to spontaneous road trips. We were young, we were free, and we were invincible, or so we thought. We believed that nothing could ever come between us, that our bond was unbreakable. Little did I know, a storm was brewing. Beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect lives, cracks were beginning to form. A darkness was slowly creeping into our lives, and it was all centered around Marwan. His secrets, his past, and the choices he made would soon test the very fabric of our friendship. Marwan was a puzzle, even from the start. He was handsome, with his piercing blue eyes and a smile that rarely reached them. He was generous, showering us with lavish gifts and extravagant parties. But there was always a distance in his eyes, a wall he kept meticulously built. Then, slowly, subtly, he began to change. He grew more withdrawn, his laughter less frequent. He would disappear for days, returning with a haunted look in his eyes. He stopped coming to our usual haunts, preferring the solitude of his sprawling villa outside the city. His transformation was unsettling. It was like watching a shadow slowly engulf a once bright flame, and we, his friends, were powerless to stop it. One humid evening, we decided to visit Marwan. His absence had become a gaping hole in our group, and we yearned for the friend we knew. The villa, as always, was intimidating in its grandeur. The air inside was thick with the scent of incense, a stark contrast to the carefree laughter we once shared within those walls. Marwan greeted us with a forced smile, his eyes distant and cold. As the night wore on, my unease grew. There were whispers in the corridors, shadows that seemed to move at the edge of my vision. A chill ran down my spine, telling me something was terribly wrong. Curiosity, or perhaps a morbid fascination, got the better of me. While the others were distracted, I slipped away from the group. My footsteps echoed in the silent hallway as I passed by closed doors, each hiding their own secrets. Then I saw it, a door I hadn't noticed before, tucked away at the end of a dimly lit corridor. It was crafted from dark wood with an intricate lock that seemed to mock me. I had to see what was behind it. With a hesitant hand, I turned the handle. To my surprise, it creaked open, revealing a set of stairs leading down into darkness. A shiver ran down my spine, but I couldn't turn back. Not now. Not when I was so close to the truth about Marwan. Section 5. Unmasking the darkness. The air grew colder as I descended the stairs, the smell of incense replaced by a metallic tang that made my stomach churn. At the bottom, I found myself in a large, cold room. The only light came from a single flickering bulb, casting long, grotesque shadows on the walls. My eyes struggled to make sense of what I was seeing. Computers hummed in the darkness, their screens filled with a jumble of code and disturbing images. Strangely shaped artifacts were scattered on tables, whispering of ancient rituals and forbidden knowledge. It was then that I understood. This was no ordinary room. This was Marwan's sanctuary, a place where he indulged in his darkest desires. This was the heart of the darkness that had been slowly consuming him. Drawn by a morbid curiosity, I moved towards the computers. The room was dimly lit, casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls. Each step I took felt heavier, as if the air itself was thick with secrets waiting to be uncovered. The hum of the machines was the only sound, a constant reminder of the digital abyss I was about to dive into. The images that flashed across the screens made my blood run cold. They were not just disturbing, they were a window into a world of nightmares, faces twisted in agony, scenes of unspeakable acts and cryptic messages that seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. It was as if the screens were alive, feeding off the darkness they displayed. They were dark, disturbing, filled with symbols and rituals I didn't understand. Ancient runes, occult diagrams, and languages long forgotten. Each symbol seemed to whisper a secret, a fragment of a larger, more terrifying truth. I felt a chill run down my spine as I tried to make sense of the chaos before me. But one thing was clear. They were not meant for ordinary eyes. These were the hidden truths of the web, the dark underbelly that most people never see. I could feel the weight of their forbidden knowledge pressing down on me, a silent warning to turn back before it was too late. As I scrolled through the files, a name leaped out at me, the Dark Orchid, and it was a name that seemed to pulse with a life of its own, a beacon in the sea of darkness. I'd heard whispers of it before, tales of a site that delved into the deepest, most forbidden corners of the human psyche. It was a site on the dark web, a place where the darkest corners of humanity converged. A digital underworld where morality was a distant memory and the only rule was survival. The Dark Orchid was a legend among those who dared to explore these depths, a place where the line between reality and nightmare blurred. And Marwan was a member. His profile was there, clear as day, a stark contrast to the shadows that surrounded it. I couldn't believe my eyes. Marwan, my friend, the one I thought I knew so well, was part of this twisted world. The realization hit me like a physical blow. My mind raced, trying to reconcile the person I knew with the dark figure on the screen. It was as if a mask had been ripped away, revealing a stranger beneath. The shock was overwhelming, a tidal wave of disbelief and fear. My friend, the one I thought I knew, was involved in something sinister, something beyond my comprehension. The more I thought about it, the more the pieces began to fit together. The late-night disappearances, the cryptic conversations, the sense of unease that had been growing between us. It all made a horrifying kind of sense now. A wave of nausea washed over me and I stumbled back, knocking over a strange metallic object. The room seemed to spin, the walls closing in as the reality of what I had discovered settled over me. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of darkness, with no way out. It clattered to the floor, revealing something that made my blood turn to ice. There, among the shadows, was a clue, a piece of the puzzle that hinted at an even deeper, more terrifying truth. I knew then that my journey into the dark web was far from over, and the secrets I had uncovered were just the beginning. Lying on the cold floor, amidst the scattered papers and strange devices, was a human tooth. It gleamed under the dim light, a macabre pearl in a sea of darkness. Panic seized me. My heart pounded in my chest, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. This wasn't just some twisted game, this was real. The disturbing images on the computer screens, the strange rituals, the tooth, it all pointed to something truly horrific. Marwan wasn't just dabbling in the occult, he was involved in something far more sinister, something that made my skin crawl. And suddenly I feared for our other friends, for the people who had vanished without a trace. Were they victims of Marwan's dark obsession? I backed away slowly, my eyes glued to the tooth. I had to get out of there, had to tell the others. As I turned to leave, I heard a noise behind me. "Curious, aren't you?" Marwan's voice was a low growl, sending chills down my spine. He stood at the top of the stairs, his eyes blazing with a cold fire. He didn't seem surprised to see me, as if he had been expecting me all along. In his hand he held a ceremonial dagger, its blade glinting menacingly in the dim light. "You should not have seen this," he said, taking a step towards me. "Now you must face the consequences." Fear paralyzed me. It was as if the very air around me had turned to ice, freezing my thoughts and movements. I could hear my own heartbeat, loud and erratic, echoing in the silence of the night. The shadows seemed to close in, suffocating me with their oppressive presence. My mind raced, searching for an escape, but there was none. Every path seemed to lead to more darkness, more uncertainty. The trees around me whispered secrets of doom, their branches like skeletal fingers pointing towards my inevitable fate. I felt trapped in a nightmare, one from which there was no waking. I was trapped, alone with a monster wearing the face of my friend. "Marwan, what is this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The Marwan I knew was kind, gentle, always ready with a smile. But this was a stranger, a dark reflection of the friend I once trusted. I stammered, my voice trembling. "What have you done?" The words felt heavy, laden with the weight of betrayal and fear. I could see the madness in his eyes, a wild, unhinged glint that sent chills down my spine. This was not the Marwan I knew. This was someone, or something else entirely. He smiled then, a chilling, mirthless grin that sent shivers down my spine. It was a smile devoid of warmth, a smile that spoke of dark intentions and hidden dangers. I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead, my body reacting instinctively to the threat before me. "This," he said, gesturing to the room around us, "this is power!" His voice was filled with a twisted sense of pride, as if he had achieved something monumental. The very air seemed to hum with a dark energy, a palpable sense of foreboding that made my skin crawl. "This is knowledge beyond your comprehension." His words were like a dagger, sharp and cutting. I felt a sense of dread wash over me, realizing that whatever Marwan had discovered, it had changed him irrevocably. This was no longer a quest for understanding. It was a descent into madness. "And as for your friends," he continued, his voice dropping to a whisper, "they have served their purpose." The coldness in his tone was unmistakable, a chilling reminder of the lengths he was willing to go to achieve his goals. I felt a pang of sorrow for those who had fallen victim to his twisted ambitions. He took another step closer, the dagger glinting in his hand. The blade caught the faint light, reflecting a cold, merciless gleam. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on me, the realization that my life hung in the balance. "Now it's your turn to choose," he hissed. His voice was low, almost serpentine, filled with a venomous intent. The choice he offered was no choice at all, a cruel ultimatum that left no room for hope or escape. "Join me or share their fate." The words hung in the air, a dark promise that sent a shiver down my spine. I could see the resolve in his eyes, the unwavering determination to see his twisted vision come to fruition. The chilling threat hung in the air, a promise of darkness and despair. It was a moment suspended in time, a crossroads where my fate would be decided. The weight of his words pressed down on me, a suffocating blanket of fear and uncertainty. And as I stared into the abyss of Marwan's madness, I knew that my life would never be the same. The darkness in his eyes was a reflection of the abyss within him, a void that threatened to consume everything in its path. I realized then that the Marwan I once knew was gone, replaced by this monstrous figure